It seems like we always start these well-known franchises from the weirdest places, doesn't it? It started with Wario's Woods last time, Altair's Chronicles the time before that, and now we're playing a damned on-rails shooter from the SNES of all things. This game will unfortunately be retconning something I said way back on the Mario and Rabbids video because Mario and the gang got introduced to firearms about 20 years before I thought they did through the adventures of Super Mario World sprite resprays. Honestly, this game is so lazy that the people involved in it should be ashamed. Yeah, it might be a technological marvel in being a light gun game that's also a heavy user of mode 7ing that includes a dozen unique boss fights, but the thing that actually matters, compelling gameplay and some sort of context, is completely lost. You can tell me that this is a SNES game, you can tell me that this is an on-rails shooter, you can tell me that this is a Yoshi game, so a lack of a story is a bullshit complaint. But I'm going to tell you that Nintendo had the opportunity to put a plotline to Yoshi's Safari and fucked it up. Seriously, look at this intro cutscene, and this is an intro cutscene, and tell me where the effort went on this game, because this is feeling more and more like a tech demo the more I'm writing these paragraphs and seeing this footage. It would be fine if Yoshi's Safari was a game built solely to show other developers the new powers of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, but I'd like them to be upfront about it. If it's a tech demo, then just make a game with the gameplay by itself. Don't use the horribly copy-pasted world sprites, and don't include a plot at all. It's a light gun game, so you can get away with that sort of stuff. Unfortunately for the quality of this review, I played an emulated copy of this game like I usually do, and in this case, I probably didn't get the intended experience of the game, since the light gun interface from the original game was replaced by regular PC FPS gameplay, which means that the game was probably 8 times easier to play than on the original cartridge. I'm not gonna blame myself, trying to pick up an original cartridge, console, and light gun would be so much extra work that I can't even think about it. And it's not even close to worth it for a game that was finished by my overpowered controls in about 60 minutes. Yup, definitely a tech demo game. For the sake of fairness, let's meet the game halfway and see what it wanted to make this experience. Princess Peach called Mario and Yoshi along with their Ultra Bazooka to help with her totally not made up on the spot friends from the Jewel or Jewelry Kingdom, a totally real place in the Mario canon with people and landmarks and awesome level design, Nintendo swears. Okay, maybe I'm not really ready to meet the game on its level, but seriously, listen to this drivel. It's like a sandbox games plot with 1/3 of the thought put into it. Anyway, the gist of the game is that the Jewelry Kingdom is under siege by the Koopa clan for some reason, and that they stole the kingdom's claim to fame, which was a dozen generic jewels. Are we sure that Princess Peach is talking about the Jewelry Kingdom and not Gary, Indiana? In the pursuit of diplomatic relations, Mario has to go out on the field of battle and shoot everybody in the face. While the plot of this game is hilariously terribly written and the animation is beaten by cereal box flip books, the actual shooting of the game is pretty good, responsive, a good leeway for error, and a couple extra whistles to liven things up. The game sometimes requires you to make jumps with Yoshi to avoid massive damage, you can shoot gates to take different paths, and the game gives you power-ups if you're quick on the trigger. Plus, even if Yoshi's Safari is a barely disguised tech demo, the tech that Nintendo is showing off looks really good and full of potential. Yes, the levels are pretty much ripped off of Super Mario World, but with all that Mode 7 wonderfulness, they are great looking locales and help to fill the game with that fast-paced action that marries well to the crazy action of an on-rail shooter, filling the screen up with enemies and challenging boss fights with the Koopalings. In this game, the Koopaling fights using Bowser Jr. styled ridiculous robots and war machines instead of fighting just with their magic wands, and for the most part, they do make for satisfying ends to the game's levels. The ending fight with Bowser was notably over the top with its multiple stages, the in-between boss rush, and ending with us fighting him in a sort of cyborg. While the animation for the game's cutscenes is as bare bones as a skeleton's right femur, the artwork for this game's levels and enemies is great, detailed enough and helps to add to the overall feeling of goofiness while playing the game. I suppose one issue with the game being an early SNES title is that replayability factor is pretty much dead on arrival. Yoshi's Safari contains an hour of content, period, and there's really zero benefit for playing the game once again, unlike Wario's Woods, which would give players hours of co-op machismo showdowns with their friends. I hope that the people at Square and such were taken in by Nintendo's console showcase in Yoshi's Safari, because as a game in of itself, it's pretty so-so. Not much to talk about. The only other on-rails shooter we did was Dead Space Extraction, which did the game much more superior. The combat was much more in your face, the story and character arcs throughout added the context to get the players intrigued in the journey, while Yoshi's Safari comes off as a vibrant but totally meaningless series of shootouts that barely qualifies as basic entertainment. I suppose you could derive some enjoyment out of deliberately killing yourself and Yoshi by shooting him in the back of the head, which is a mechanic in this game for some reason, but otherwise Yoshi's Safari is a retro game that should remain lost to time. The tech that this game was pushing was shown off in much more solid products like Super Mario Kart and Final Fantasy VI. And without that, the game is a stock and barrel on-rails light gun game with the flimsiest plot had to hand. The great boss fights wouldn't even justify it without the Mode 7 angle, because without that, all you'd have is a side-scrolling adventure. I don't even know why they called this game Yoshi's Safari, when it's clearly another one of the Mario experiments that didn't go anywhere or do anything for the franchise. Yoshi would get his actual start as a protagonist in a completely different and better produced title, and the tech that this game was designed to show off was done with more quality in third-party titles. Without that, Yoshi's Safari is a pile of nonsense and vaguely good-looking shooting galleries. Certainly not the best showing from our favorite 16-bit mascot. Hopefully Yoshi's quote-unquote actual introduction to the franchise will show off a bit more of his finer points. But for now, let's finish up with a final scoreboard. And give you guys a victory for gamers, because y'all deserve it. Thanks for watching.